Welcome to Mountain View Crematoria, and thank you for joining us on this virtual tour. If you have any questions relating to our facility or the practices that are undertaken here, please feel free to contact us on 4249 2221. My name is Michelle Newland and I'm the manager here at MVC. Okay, so we're now here in the receiving area at the MVC facility. The deceased are delivered to our facility by funeral directors and funeral transfer staff, and there is quite a large amount of room here for cars to enter and for the deceased to be delivered with dignity. The deceased are received by our crematorium staff by use of the trolley, the coffin trolley that we have here on hand, and we practice safe manual handling practices when receiving and transferring the deceased and the coffin. So under the New South Wales health legislation, we have the authority to cremate the deceased within 48 hours, unless the family has selected a same-day cremation or have chosen to undertake a witness of insertion into the cremator on a specific day. Once we receive the deceased and the coffin, we place the deceased into our cool room, which has capacity to hold 12 coffins at one time. Okay, so here we have our charge beer, which is operated by remote control. And this wonderful piece of equipment is an automated transport system for the coffin from the cool room. It travels along to the cool room and the operator can draw the coffin out onto the charge beer and transport it back towards the cremator for when the cremator is ready to receive the coffin. As you can see on our charge beer, there are rollers all the way along. So once the charge beer is ready to receive the coffin is placed on rollers itself in the cool room, and it just provides easier access for the coffin to be rolled out onto the charge beer. Now we're here at the cremator. Our cremator is a dual cremator, which means that it has two chambers for better release of emissions into the earth, into the atmosphere. So the first chamber allows the burning of the deceased to take place, and then the second chamber reduces any amount of smoke that might be released into the atmosphere. Top of the line equipment, and it is operated by a computer system, and the computer system pretty much directs us as to which stage of the cremation we are at. The computer system is held within the control room, and I'll show you that in a moment. So once the coffin has been placed on the charge beer is brought over to the cremator, and the cremator operator will do all of these processes via remote. The green light here signifies that we are ready to open the door. We can't open the door of the cremator until this green light is showing. The cremator door will open. And the temperatures within the cremator will be between 800 and 950 degrees. The cremator operator will use the remote to then transfer the coffin into the cremator, and there is a water spout here which shoots down onto the coffin as well during the insertion. Once the coffin has entered the cremator, the door will close. So the cremation takes between an hour to an hour and a half to complete, depending on the weight of the deceased. Once the cremation has taken place, there will be just fragments of bone within the cremator. The operator will then, once the cremation is complete, use one of our tools here, which is a scraper and a broom, to bring the bones down into the subtray, which is situated underneath the cremator. So each coffin we receive here at MVC has a nameplate placed on top of it, and this nameplate pretty much follows the deceased through the whole process. So once we have a cremation taking place, that nameplate will be inserted here into this little catch, And then once the cremation has finalised and the bone fragments are now in the sub-tray, which is down here, that plate will be placed down into this catcher here. So once the coffin has been inserted into the cremator, we have a sub-tray which is placed underneath, which will be specific to that cremation. The bones fragments are then transported into the sub-tray, and the sub-tray, once it's cooled down a little bit, is removed by the cremator operator and taken into our processing area. Our cremator operators are required to use all of the correct PPE gear when handling the cremator. We have gloves, the helmet here with the protective gear, and making sure that our operators wear long sleeve shirts to make sure that they are protected through this process. So now we're here in our control room. This is where our computer systems are set up to manage the cremator. We have a specific cremation software which looks after each cremation that takes place, and within that we will generate a reference number, a 4-digit reference number for each of our cremations that take place. That reference number will then be highlighted on each form of document that moves with the deceased, right up to when the collection appointment takes place with the loved ones of the deceased. That reference number is then specifically allocated to our cremation management software, which is an internal system which is utilised by MBC staff. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the sub-tray is placed beneath the cremator, where the bone fragments are then placed into the sub-tray and brought here into our processing area, our processing room. The trays are placed on our bench top here, just to cool, and once they have cooled slightly, the operator will use a metal detector instrument, which will bring out any pins or internal implants from the body that are metallic, and those are then recycled and go back into use into society. So once the operator has done the check of the bone fragments for any metallic fragments and have removed those, the bone fragments are then placed into our ash processor. And along with them is these metallic balls which are placed into the processor as well. It's kind of like a washing machine effect, so the processor will spin, and as they take place will create the cremains or the ash that then falls down into a bag held within a container to catch all of the cremains. We're now here in our ash room. So once the processing has taken place within our processing room, the cremator operator will bring the ashes into this room where they are lined within their reference number that I spoke of before in numerical order. The ashes are within a bag. Along with the bag is the nameplate, which I spoke about earlier, and also our administration team creates a cremation certificate which sits with each set of ashes. They're here lined on the right of this room, waiting for an appointment to be made by the family. So we've organised this room to also reflect any ashes that need to be transferred over to any of the gardens, the local gardens, which we can do those deliveries for families. Also, we have a line of ashes here that are waiting where appointments have already been scheduled. Families are welcome to book our reflection room here at Mountain View Crematoria. This comfortable space offers room for families to sit or stand in reflection, either with the deceased or without, and can be booked for up to an hour. So now we're here in our beautiful showroom, which holds a variety of urns. So once the processing of the ashes has taken place and the ashes are placed within the ash holding room, our administration assistant will contact the family either via letter or phone call and let them know that the ashes are ready for collection, and we schedule in an appointment. A lot of families aren't sure yet as to how they want to take the ashes, so we have large urns, we have scattering tubes, we have tea lights, we have jewellery, and the family often will come in and actually make a selection here on the day of the appointment, and we will actually place those ashes then that are held within a bag in the interim into an urn of their choice. Our showroom here, although it does hold quite a large range of urns, is actually quite extensive on our online shop. So we have a number of other products which we can access for families, and we have a catalogue here for the families to make those selections if they like, where we order them in from our supplier. And sometimes families will leave their ashes here with us until we have received that urn and we can do the placement for them. So this is our appointment room. We do all collections via appointment so that we can better serve our customers and hold a space for them to actually be here for whatever period of time that they need to be. As you can imagine, it can be quite an emotional time for families and for the grieving. So we bring the family into this room. There is some paperwork that we require them to sign and identification that we need, either a driver's license or a photo ID card, and we record those details just to make sure that we are aligning with our practices. Once the ashes are ready for collection, we'll pass them over to the customers and we wish them well. And that brings us to the end of our tour of our facility. I hope you have found it informative. If you'd like to actually come in and schedule in a in-house tour, you're more than welcome to do that. Please contact us on 4249 2221, and we can also answer any questions you may have about any of our processes here at Mountain View Crematoria.